Where I live is not known as an RC crawling destination. In fact, I thought it was more of a black hole for crawling events. That is until I came across a post online with someone who had just spent time crawling at a local RC park. Upon further investigation, it turned out to be someone's backyard. So I contacted the owner, and yes, he has built an RC playground in his own backyard, and yes, he is more than willing to share with others. So here with me today is the owner, Garrett Graham, to talk about his project, the Graham Crawler Compound, and the story behind it. So for anyone who has ever stacked bricks, logs, rocks, or whatever to build a crawling feature, I'm sure you can appreciate what it would take to build one full RC course, let alone several. Before we start, I must apologise for the sound quality. We did our best, but this can be an issue when dealing with cell service in a rural area. I think the content outweighs the sound quality, and I hope you all agree. So let's get started. Hi Garrett, thank you so much for making the time to talk to me today. We have so much to talk about, but let's start with the obvious question. You've converted your own backyard into an RC park with multiple courses. How did this all start?
So I moved back to the area, and I've always been into the RCs, and I just wanted to see who lived in my area. So I just decided to build a homemade course and then just make a public Facebook event to see who would show up, and just get new friends in the area pretty much to hang out and crawl and enjoy the hobby with myself as well.
Wow. Did you intend for the course to get as big as it did?
Yeah, to be honest, not at all. It just started with one little side hill trail, and, maybe 30, 40 people showed up. And with me seeing that, it just made me open my eyes that, if you build it, people are going to come, as they say. So I just keep on building, and I just keep meeting more new faces every event.
Yeah. What courses have you actually built?
So I have multiple rock bouncer hills for the guys that want to get crazy. We have the extreme scale for the guys that are trying to keep it realistic and the realism. And then we have random trails that's anything from man-made features to natural features. Anything from mild to wild would be a good way to look at it, whether you're just getting in the crawling or if you've been, a seasoned crawler your whole life. There's a little bit of everything to challenge anyone as far as I'm concerned.
Right. Obviously, when you build all these courses, are they hard to maintain?
You have your, things get chewed up. Like if we have a big event, things get very chewed up in certain spots because there's all different driving styles. There's different rigs, some of them work better than others. Therefore, some that don't work as well will get stuck and, chew up some of the dirt areas. And the main thing in Pennsylvania on the east is just the thunderstorms with all the weeds. So as long as you stay ahead of the weeds, that's pretty much your worst enemy, I would say, is the weeds. Because they never end.
Right. No, they do keep on coming, don't they?
Yeah. So with that said, I have a little creek in my backyard. So I actually get the shale right out of the creek for my property in order to make, walkways and just weed prevention. And that seems to work well, and it's free for me. So it helps out all around.
Right. That's a good point. In actual fact, I was going to say, did you need to invest much into this project?
Not very much. More so now with just like more stickers, the t-shirt line, But yeah, as far as starting the course, I do general contracting, so I'm a scavenger at the job sites, and I bring home, what I have an eye for that I think would work as a feature. I usually get my stocking area like filled up with a bunch of supplies, and then I'll just go crazy building a trail, whether, it's rocks or lumber, scrap wood, whatever it is. Therefore, you have it on hand so you can grab it as you need it. And instead of just visualizing what you're trying to do, you can make it happen immediately.
You say you're getting the materials from your building sites and things like that. So your big investment is time then? Primarily?
Yes, time is the main thing, as my wife could vouch for that. She'll hoot and holler at me from time to time, to come inside. That I can lose hours out there building trails, or like you said, just maintaining everything. It definitely takes more time than one would think as far as that goes. You don't just snap your fingers and a feature's there. It's definitely a lot of planning. A little bit of planning and rock placement. Knowing what trucks, the wheelbase and everything. It all comes into consideration.
Right.
Times I'll actually have a rig right there with me, so I know if a feature needs to be wider, or if the tires are just hitting one feature right in as the front tires are going into next one to sort of give it that challenge. So you aren't just riding over things, lickety split.
I understand.
So yeah, there's all different factors that come into actual trail building.
No, that will make sense. So how did you learn to build courses?
Just, doing them as a kid, having the RC cars when I was younger. And then you learn little tricks, I guess it'd say, like, as you go. It's like people ask you when you're mixing mud at work, they're like, oh, how do you know the mud's ready? And some guys just say, well, you just know by looking at it. And the same thing, it's just, I guess with experience, it just comes naturally, I guess. And then you just make adjustments as you want it, or if you have a particular theme for a specific trail, and then I try to just carry that theme along, or, go with whatever idea I have pretty much.
Right. Have you built a feature or a section that just didn't work?
They usually, if anything, is like an absolute failure, which I usually will like test the feature out before like everyone comes over, or, if there's an event. Where if something does fail miserably, I'll just make little subtle adjustments. The main thing, we just had a big bridge feature. It's like 30 feet long that we just made it. And that was actually a little trickier than I anticipated. I figured you could just get on the bridge, go right across it. We used old toe straps that you're driving on. So they tend to move and flex more than I initially anticipated. So yeah, I had to do a little adjustment on that. But yeah, everything pretty much works for the most part, I would say. Or even with that being said, like, even just because I can't make it doesn't mean that another individual's rig won't make it. So I usually, even if I don't conquer a particular feature, I'll let a bunch of people try it to actually conquer it, and then depending on what it is, I'll even let people name it if they want to, if they're the first ones to conquer it, because that keeps things exciting. And, everybody thinks differently and has different perspectives on things. So it's great to see like what trucks work and what trucks don't work with new features as far as that goes.
Right, because when you're running different trucks over it, you get a different perspective with each vehicle.
Yeah, and that comes into whether it's a 2.2 truck or a 1.9 truck, right down to tire choice, even the wheelbase. Wheelbase is a huge thing. Or like the magic number I've seen is like right around 13-inch wheelbase. Seems to be pretty capable for your pretty standard scale trail, I would say, without getting real nuts on real radical features. And each rig's different. Everyone has a rig that could be purpose built or, built specifically for a certain feature that they want to try to conquer. It's great.
Have there been any designs that after construction really surprised you?
Yeah, I would say some of the stuff you'll make it and you think, wow, I don't know if the trucks are going to make it, and then it's amazing what these little rigs are capable of. It just blows your mind of what they can actually conquer as far as going up vertical stuff, or, with the whole water scene. I was always afraid of the water, and then I met all these guys 2 years ago, and now I'm a water junkie. I always thought if you'd go in water, you'd see smoke and that was it. That's not the total case as long as you're prepped for the water. There's a big difference there. They say waterproof out of the box, but it's good to do your own little tricks as well before you just go submerging the rig, whether it's water or mud.
Right.
The creek is super cool because we do have a mud bog that, it's like wet cement when it's all churned up, and then, it'll stop some trucks dead in their tracks, and then you'll just have to run them in the water to just flush out that brushed motor. Or if you're brushless, you really don't need to worry about it as much. The more water you have in the mud, the easier the trucks will go through it. Where the thicker the mud is, that's where you'll run into more mechanical failures, which I definitely have noticed. You'll hear those motors just grinding, and it's like, oh boy.
So you really need to tailor your rig to deal with the mud?
Like, I'll be quite honest with you. I have a couple rigs where, I have them totally submerged, and I haven't even, other than my preventative maintenance and stuff, I haven't even ripped them apart or anything. I usually spray a little WD-40 in the motor, and if it's squealing at me, and pretty much I'll run it till that motor's dead, because it is one of my all-around rigs, where I have some where I will not touch the water with them. It's just,
right.
They're not for that. Where I have, an all-around truck, because you got to play in the water and the mud. It's too much fun. You can't sit there and think, wow, like I wish mine could do that. And like I said, there's a couple little steps, and then you're able to do that, and it takes the fun to the next level.
Yeah. So sure. What are those steps, Garrett?
We use conformal coating, which you can get online or at a local electrical store, where we'll dip the circuit board for the receiver in the conformal coating. Most of your servos, like steering servos, will come waterproof, so you don't even need to do anything there. I'll pack some grease in the end of the axle tubes, just to just to help out a little bit. But other than that, you really don't need to do a whole lot because, like I said, it's actually amazing that the technology, you don't need to do anything to your battery, even your connectors, you just plug them in and everything. It's amazing. It all works. So it's not too bad, too difficult to make a truck ready for the water as far as that goes. Where I know some guys, they run the brushless setups and they hammer them away where, my mud trucks, I'm more of a cheaper RC guy, I guess you could say. So I try to do the best bang for your buck, where, I run like a $10, RC 4-wheel drive motor, or, I only have one truck that's actually like full brushless, and that's actually my rock bouncer. Because at times I feel like you don't need all that extra power, because after all, we are just doing a scale trail, so you're, in real life, you're not going 40 miles an hour through a trail in the woods, unless you're, boozed up being wonky and crazy. In that, it's that scale trail riding. And people often wonder, we'll have our events and they'll drive by and people see me in town and say, like, what do you have going on at your house? You have campers there. There's your yard's full of tents. And I'll tell people, because they are so baffled, and I'm like, we're playing with RC cars, and it blows their mind that we gather in that big of a crowd, and we're all so quiet, and it just surprises my neighbors because they never seen anything like that. And then we've had people stop by thinking we're having an auction at the property, where it's just there's that many cars and that many tables set up. People think there's yard sales, and it just they stop and they are like amazed. I had a pizza guy last night get out of his car and come down and check the property out. He just blows his mind to see the technology and how realistic those little RC cars are. It's incredible.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you, do you actually host events or share this course with the public?
Yeah, so is what I do. I usually very easygoing. So if anyone wants to ever message me on Facebook, and if they can't make it for an actual posted event, that's totally fine. We're all about having fun at the compound. So we don't do a lot of comps or anything like that. That tends to scare some of the new guys away, as that can be overwhelming with all the, the regulations on class and spec and all that. We tend to just do fun runs. So we host like a tailgate style event. I tell people to bring what you need to survive. I do provide power. And then just this summer, we've, since things have been blowing up, we do a $10 a driver for the day. That's just to cover, like I said, costs on weed killer and marker paint, and and also my time, because time is a valuable thing, and you never get it back. So
no.
But yeah, so we have hosted events. We usually do like a spring fling crawl, then we do like a summer, a midsummer. This one is actually June 4th to the 6th coming up here. And then we'll do like a big fall crawl, which is always great because the summer is great, but my property is very open. So make sure you bring your sunscreen. That's one thing I recommend. And we do night crawling as well, Nigel. We'll be up till 2-3 in the morning, through the night. People are just can't get enough of it. It's the fun, everyone starts having fun. You meet new people. Everyone is allowed. I allow people to camp right on my property. So we have a couple fifth wheel campers that come from out of town, as close to 10 minutes away. They're there every single weekend. Back to the original question. Yeah, there's usually always people there every weekend, whether it's just 3 or 4 or a handful of cars. Like I said, I'm super easygoing. I always just ask if someone just sends me a message to say, hey, can I stop by this weekend, or through the week as well. I've had a couple individuals, their schedule just doesn't work out, so they can always stop by during the week. It doesn't have to be a big event as far as that goes.
That's awesome that you're so flexible on things like that.
Yeah, and I just try to accommodate everybody. I mean, you can't make everybody happy. That's the main thing that I always try to remind myself. Because when I first started doing it, that was my thing. I was like, I got to make everybody happy. This, where I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. Where now we've seemed to each event, we iron out some more details, and it just makes things run smoother for myself as well as my wife, who helps staff the head table, as well as just walking around to answer questions as they pop up.
Right. I mean, you could just be at it full time all day,
exactly.
Just trying to accommodate everyone.
Yeah, and that's the thing, where we've had people, hey, do you have a can opener? It's like, well, of course I do, but like I don't really want to run in and get it for you right now. It's one of those things where That's why I emphasize the tailgate event, bring what you need to survive, because other than, I run a couple extension cords for charging stations. Other than that, it's, there's a dollar store 10 minutes away, or if you need food, like pizza delivers there, like, keep it simple. As the evening goes on, or even lunchtime, people are always grilling. So yeah, it's basically, do your own thing and just have a good time. That's the main thing, is just have fun.
So when you host these events, how do you manage the competitions? Do you use sort of like a Sorka rule set, or do you run something more like a Recon G6?
Yeah, so you mentioned the comp. So actually, we did have a competition in the spring, which is on our, we call it the Barn Trail, which is a specific trail. And we did that. So I've only been to one comp prior to the one I was holding at my property. So I had an idea what it was about, but I didn't want to get into all the very finicky details. So you mentioned Sorka Light rules, which we used those while you were on course, made it super simple. So it was either you were running 1.9 tires or a 2.2 tire class. Okay. And that was no matter what. It didn't matter if it was a 6x6 or, a 4-wheel drive rig. It just came down to tire size, and that was it. And with our particular event, we did like a $20 buy-in per run. So if you goofed up real bad, you would come to the head table and get another chance at, tackling the course and bettering yourself in a sense.
Right.
So yeah, that kept some people didn't like it because there weren't enough rules, and then some people liked it. So like I said, it's sort of like, tough luck. If you don't like how I'm doing things, then maybe you'll catch us the next time around.
Right.
And that's sort of how you have to stay, because like I said, you can't make everybody happy. It's too big of a challenge.
No. And it's a very personal choice. I mean, if you want to open it up to more people, then having a more open system, say 1.9 or 2.2, you can't get much simpler than that. That just works out very easily. But I mean, not everyone's into the whole Sorka scene. So you could
so
because close doors, couldn't you?
Yeah, you can scare away, maybe a newcomer that's just trying to, get into a competition, and they get online and see all these regulations, and it's like, holy cow, they'll have smoke coming out of their ears because there's so much to take in. We're making it simple. How we did it was just, I didn't have any tech, so I didn't have to worry about inspecting vehicles at my property. That saved a lot of time. We had 3 main judges. So it was like, 2 guys were on course at all times. And it was very busy weekend for me as well as the judges, because there were a lot of runs that were going through. And, we just pulled names out of a hat, and I would make an announcement, and you'd get ready and pretty much run the course.
Right. So even though you're keeping the rules simple, you still have quite a bit of time investment with bringing other like judges and marshals and
yeah, exactly. So I met with my closer friends and asked who would want to judge, or in a sense more who are my like immediate helpers, I would say, at the compound. So therefore they know the trails, they know which direction everything was supposed to go, and then we set up marker gates for the course like a day ahead of time. That way no one could practice and get the upper hand, and you'd have people crying about that. There's so many different variables where it takes the fun out of it. So whenever you make a competition, people tend to get a little too serious instead of just enjoying themselves. So that's why, like I said, it's mainly just a fun run. Like it originated where I said, don't bring anything besides a smile. That was like my first Facebook post, and that's pretty much how it stuck.
Yeah,
was just come and have a good time.
No, I think it's great.
Yeah, and another thing, everybody's very similar as far as keeping a guy going. If we've had guys come from 2-3 hours away, where if they have a mechanical issue, we have Bloom Hobby, we partner up with them, and they bring a parts trailer over to keep our events running smooth, and it promotes their business as well. And that's by Norm Swisher and Scott, who are 2 of my local guys there. But yeah, and like I said, or if they don't have the part, someone in my property will have the part in order to keep someone going. That's great to see the community come together and keep everybody rocking and rolling as far as that goes.
Right. That's an awful lot of infrastructure going on there.
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
We have Bloom Hobby as, our main go-to, where we're looking for other vendors to come to our event, just to make it even bigger and better. I mean, it can always be growing, and all the support you can get just helps out.
Right. I mean, obviously it's great that you can offer all those facilities. It's helping, it helps everybody, not just you. I mean, it helps, like if you break something and there's parts.
Yep. We did
with our parts store,
Yeah, with our competition, we raised a couple $100 from entry fees, and we didn't keep any of that for ourselves. I took, the stack of cash to the hobby trailer, and I talked with the owners, and, we needed 6 prizes because we had 2 classes going. So first, second, third, and then first, second, third. And we were actually able to give away a kit truck for first place, as well as a ready to run truck. And then, second place prizes were a little smaller, and then, third place prizes were smaller. And I even buy a couple cheaper things online, just to, throw in as my little, a gift per se. Whoever travels like the furthest, I usually, give them a roof rack or a little gift of some sort to accommodate, to show their appreciation that they've made the trek up to my property.
Yeah, no, that's very thoughtful. Since you've opened it up to the public, I mean, have there been any surprises?
Nothing too surprising. I mean, it's nice because the more people there, it keeps the trail in line. It keeps the trail broken in, I guess you would say. And even having a new trail, it allows it to get broken in much quicker, which is great for, keeping the direction, the confusion down as far as how the trail goes or which way you're supposed to actually go on the trail.
Right, I got you. So what kind of RC vehicles do most people bring to your event?
I would say the TRX4 is a real popular one there by Traxxas. We have guys that, like I said, I'm a more cheaper into the RC world. So I have a couple Red Cat Gen 8s. Guys bring the Red Cat Gen 7. If they're just getting into it, they'll bring them there and they love it. As far as Element has a bunch of neat crawlers. There's the Gatekeeper that's out, the Trail Walker. I mean, they're all capable rigs. These companies are doing great with, their development and engineering. These trucks are awesome out of the box is what it comes down to.
Well,
definitely.
So you've seen all of those vehicles?
Yeah, I've seen we had the brand new Rift, the rock bounce that just came out. We had guys, just destroying those things, because they had that recall there with the axle and stuff. So guys were slaying the bounty hills at the house with those, and then they're actually jumping the creek and getting a little wild with them. And it's just cool to see what works, because if you're interested in building a truck, you could watch a gentleman maybe run his, or maybe he'd even offer you to try it out, and then that seals the deal for you. So you're not making a $400 or $500 gamble on whether you buy something, and if you don't like it, now you're sort of stuck with it. Right. And people are always buying and selling stuff. Even at my events, I encourage people to bring that box of stuff you've had in your basement for the last year that you don't use, because someone will buy it from you.
It's a good idea. Yeah.
So we always have a little, not a swap meet, I'd say, but everyone has their for sale box at their camp. So it's cool to just, walk around and trade stuff and barter, and it just adds to the excitement, and with me being the owner, I always get a bunch of gifts from people. I've been given jars of honey, different building supplies for the course. It's great. People just come together in a sense, and it's cool to see what they're going to bring, or, the people make me steak dinner at the camp where, it's all great. It's just all good accommodations that come with owning the property.
No, it sounds like you're building like a sort of really strong sort of RC community.
Yeah. Northeastern PA, and we've had guys come from Lancaster, Philadelphia area, State College. I mean, those are not just a 5-minute ride up the road. People are putting in their time, and it's been growing and growing, with the Facebook and multimedia, social media, I guess. It's just taking off in a sense. So it's cool to see who's in the area, and it seems like more and more people are getting into them every year as far as that goes.
Right.
I have, I think, 11 or 12 rigs myself, which, you only need one to have fun. But, once you get that RC bug in you, where you want to maybe play around with different, specific builds, or, purpose built rig, it's just fun or different body styles. I mean, the theme goes on and on. The sky's the limit as far as your creativity goes.
Right. And especially as you've built, sort of more sort of rig specific courses, and then you get to drive other people's rigs, I'm sure that encourages you to think, oh, maybe I'd like one of those too. I mean,
oh, of course. Cause we have a couple local guys that, I'd say they know what they're doing, because their rigs go over almost everything, where it makes you stand there and scratch your head if you were just trying all day, and an individual, goes right right over a feature. Now you're like trying to pay attention to what they're doing because obviously it's working.
Yeah.
So whether you are trying to do it stealthy and just take pictures of a rig, or if you ask the individual, hey, like, what's the trick? You know, what's your secret? For the most part, people are pretty, you know, relative and open-minded. Because I mean, like I said, we're not doing the comp thing, so it doesn't matter if I beat you and, you know, you beat me. It's all just shared knowledge, and then everybody's trucks work great.
That's really nice. I think if you take that pressure off. I mean, I've been told that the crawling community is far more open than, say, the racing community. They seem to be a little more secretive about their setups and what they're running.
Yep. So like we said, when you're coming down to if there's money on the line or, you know, big prizes on the line, people are always going to find a way to sort of cheat in a sense and always want to have that upper hand. And that's where, like I said, it takes the fun out of things. You know, I do competitive downhill mountain bike racing where, you know, I love to go to the mountain bike park on a weekend and just free ride with my buddies because there's no pressure. Where when you throw competition into there, it changes the whole weekend. You're just there for one reason and one reason only, and that's to win. You know, you're not there for fun.
Yeah.
Everybody's different. Everybody has different opinions, and it's cool to see everybody's different driving styles as far as even, you know, the characteristics of a particular theme. Some guys go off the wall and build dualies and, you know, 8x8 trucks, and it's just cool to see all the diversity and just difference in people's minds, you know, because not any truck is exactly the same. I don't care if you bought them at the same time. Each truck has its own personality, is a good way of putting it.
No, I think that's a very accurate way of putting it. I was in a recent conversation, we were talking about like a stock class, and he said, who keeps their truck stock? Everybody changes it. Everybody does their own thing to their truck. I mean, I think there's very few people that are driving the original. It's an RTR. Obviously wouldn't be a kit because you've built that. But with an RTR, I think everybody fine tunes it or does something different.
Yeah, you're with any of your RTR kits, you're immediately gonna find your weak links per se, and then you know, once it breaks, you're not gonna buy the same thing that just broke because you know it's gonna break again. So therefore, that's where you would upgrade it, you know, just to prevent, you know, having another failure on the trail. Just to so when you start having more headaches than more fun, that's when, you know, you need to go back to the drawing board and evaluate things and see what seems to be failing to be the thorn in your side to ruin your good time.
Right.
Because it could be different.
No, that makes total sense, you know.
Exactly. Where like at the compound, we our theme is like make the features as rowdy as you can, and like the rowdier the better. You know, we want people to be like awestruck in a sense of like, wow, they have, you know, this particular feature. Like, we don't want you to just walk right through everything and then you're done in 20 minutes. Like, you know, the challenge is there for a reason. And as well, I mentioned we have a specific trail called the Barn Trail, and we made a cool little challenge for people. So if you can do the whole Barn Trail without touching the truck with your hands, you actually can get a Graham Compound certified sticker that you can put on your body or whatever you want to do with it. And that is as if it's like real life. So if you and your buddies are out, you know, wheeling together, and if you get stuck, you know, Nigel, you could throw a strap to the front of my truck and pull me out. You know, that's totally allowed. Or even if you flip over, you're allowed to flip a rig over with a tow strap, winch, per se, whatever you have. You just can't do the helping hand of God, is what we call it in the RC community. And that would be an individual just reaching down, flipping the truck over, and then continuing on the trail.
Right.
And that just gives people that challenge. Some people like to have a goal or a challenge for the specific trail, you know, and it keeps people just going and going and going. You know, some guys maybe try 3-4 times and then they finally get it, you know, and they feel so accomplished, which is great.
Yeah.
Because it is challenging. You know, there's some spots that you might go right up, but then there's other spots that you might, you know, it might be a thorn in your side for a good 10-15 minutes.
Right. No, that makes sense. Yes. I mean, every course, every line is a challenge to most, you know, I mean,
exactly.
You might even choose to, you know, pick an easy line, and then maybe you decide to, like, you know, next time I'm going to go pick a different line and push myself.
There are, I guess you could call them a bypass along the way, where if you can't make it, you know, I tend to have a little easier spot where you can still proceed on the trail, but maybe you're not doing the craziest line. You know, there might be 2 to 3 different lines to choose from, but then they all funnel back into the original trail to keep the direction going. And with that said, a lot of our trails are directional, but as well, we have some that you can go forwards or backwards on it. It doesn't matter per se. We don't have compound police walking around saying, hey, you're doing this wrong or you're going the wrong way. Some people might get turned around on a trail, and that's totally okay. It's that, like I said, that's fine, and just keep on crawling.
No, I like that thought process.
Yep.
So now that you have so many different kinds of vehicles running your courses, have you needed to make design changes?
Not really, because like I said, it's no different than real life. Whether you have a long wheelbase truck in the woods, or if I come along in a little Jeep, you're gonna have pros and cons no matter what. So the longer wheelbase rigs tend to get high centered more so you might need to change your driving style a little bit. But I really don't change course design based on a certain rig or this or that. We have a bunch of 6x6 trucks that come, and it's pros and cons with everything. You have to turn, back up and turn a little more due to them being a longer rig, so it's hit or miss on what rig you have. I don't really see myself making adjustments for a particular rig per se.
I got you. So when you're building, when you first started building, you said you take one of your trucks out and you'd use that as your sort of benchmark.
Yep, like a sample. Yep.
Right. So now you've got a variety of different rigs. Does that change that process at all? Because obviously
a little bit. The main thing I would use my rigs for is whether it's a bridge or something you have to straddle. I just don't want it to be too narrow for the smaller 1.9 trucks or 1.55 trucks for that matter, but yet still doable for a 2.2 truck, whether it's a Wraith or a Bomber. Which has the AR-60 axles, which are, a lot wider than what would be under a normal trail truck, which would have the AR-44 under them.
Do you feel that, as you grow in the compound, are you going to make certain sections more sort of vehicle specific?
I may do. Yeah. So we have some real chunkier spots where I actually, so to be more thorough with that, is I was always a 2.2 Wraith guy. I only had a Wraith, I was closed-minded, I only need one truck, it'll go everywhere, do anything. So in my mind, I thought the chunkier the stuff you had, the bigger truck you needed, where that's not the case. I've learned that I enjoy driving my 1.9 trucks more than my 2.2 trucks because it does pose more of a challenge opposed to just point and shoot or pull the throttle, and just hammer down. So it doesn't matter whether it's very chunky or, like I said, it all comes down to that wheelbase, tire height, a variety of things. So yeah, the trails can get you can have smoke coming out of your ears if you're trying to build a trail, where I tell people that anyone that helps, I'm like, just throw a rock down. You cannot mess it up. We're building an off-road trail. And then with that said, you can tweak things along the way. If there's a spot that's just, radically impossible, or is it just chewed out from people spinning, you can make adjustments, to accommodate the major issue spots, I guess you would, where people are going to get bunched up on the trail.
Right. That's good advice, because nature doesn't organize trails by vehicle, does it?
No, exactly. And that's, like I said, whether you're trying to be, more scale or more realistic, we have some trails that you can actually pull a camper or a trailer, and still do it. Then there's some trails where it'll be like a Black Diamond trail per se, where in real life you would never be pulling a camper or a trailer up that anyway, so don't even try it, is what that comes down to. Yeah. Where, like I said, we love our trails to be rowdy. We like when people break stuff. We have a board that where if you break stuff at my compound, we have a parts board of just destruction, carnage. It's the carnage wall. And there's axle shafts, there's servos, there's, axle housings. I've seen just about, every failure you could imagine with, because like I said, everybody's driving style is different. You have some guys that they'll come with 5 trucks and leave with 5 trucks broke, or they'll, bring 30 trucks and leave with all of them running. It's all just comes down to driving style and your characteristics as far as that goes. Just like a 1-to-1 real life, there's always one guy who's breaking everything.
There's my servo. Oh, no pressure. Servo just took a shit. No pressure, don't worry. We're not watching. No, my servo took a shit. I'm done.
So you have people that bring obviously more than one truck.
Oh yeah, it's I'd say on average people usually bring 3 to 4 trucks depending. There might be, if they're just getting into it, one guy might have just one truck, but I think it's one of those hobbies where once you get your feet wet, you're definitely going to go buy another truck. So therefore you would have a backup is a good way of putting it. That way you don't drive, all this way and something would happen. Where, like I said, we're pretty mellow people here where, if someone would drive far away and they'd break, I'd even offer one of my rigs up for the day because I don't want to ruin anyone's fun time. As far as that goes, as long as they'd be, respectable with what's going on and not abusing the truck. Because
that's more than fair.
Abuse.
My goodness.
Yeah. So and like I said, there's some guys that have so many trucks, just like table after table of rigs, and it's just amazing to see the different paint jobs and different themed builds. If people are into a specific TV show or what have you, it's just so cool to see everybody's creativity come to life, in a 1/10 scale perspective.
Yeah, I mean, that's really fun to see. I mean, and it sounds like you've got quite a diverse audience. So, I mean, it's great to see all those different aspects of it.
Oh, yeah. We have some of the Vanquish guys, that we call them Gucci crawlers because they're just high end. There's nothing wrong with that. Those trucks are great. And then, like I said, there's other guys that are, on the cheaper side of things and they can have just as much fun. And people new to the hobby is you don't need to spend, $1,000, to have a good time. You can spend $400 and you're going to have the time of your life. You don't have to break the bank just to, stick right there with the big dogs, the very expensive Vanquish rigs or, some of those one-to-one hand-built rigs, can get a little expensive, the rock bouncers and whatnot. And Axial, like I said, they came out with the Rift, so I mean, that's a whole new playing field for those guys that are trying to get into the rock bouncer scene, where, like I said, we have 4 or 5 rock bouncer hills where guys, it's more so bragging rights. We don't really have a bouncer event where we'll do, a little $2 buy-in or whatever, just for fun per se. Or like I said, it's just those bragging rights, it's nice to beat your buddies,
So with so many different sort of genres of RC car, people bringing them to your park or the compound, do you see a trend or an interest going in a specific direction?
Like I said, it's mainly a lot of that scale stuff where some people, they'll keep it scale, but yet you want it to perform. So there's a fine line there of, oh, wow, that little RC car is jacked up and looks cool, but yet it's not going to perform because of the center of gravity. All those different little aspects come into the final result. You can have one guy that, like I said, goes right over something and one guy that just cannot do it. And it's because he has too much coolers on the top or, the little beer kegs. I mean, you name it, they make it for the miniature RC cars. So you can get carried away with more so looks instead of performance, where it's good to have that fine line, where I have one rig that's like my total scale rig. It's an old like brush fire truck, super like scaled out, where then I have other ones that are just solely for performance. And that's what's nice about it, is you can just change it up.
Yeah. So are you seeing more like, I mean, the rock bouncer was a fairly sort of niche market, but now the Rift's out. Do you see more trending towards the rock bouncing?
Some guys, and then once again, that all decides on the driver. Some guys like to bash a little more than just crawl. In that sense, a guy will have like maybe 1 or 2 trail trucks, but then he'll have a rock bouncer if he wants to get rowdy and bash a little bit per se. And likewise, I have a axial bomber that I use for my rock bouncer where, I can go over and if I destroy it, whatever, I can go put it on my table and grab my trail truck and still go have a good time. It's not going to ruin my time. Same thing with my trail truck. If I would happen to destroy, one of my trail trucks, in my case, I just grab another one and just keep it going, because I have a couple of them. But no, I would say mainly for the compound itself, it's just more pointing towards the scale trail trucks and that, where in the future I would like to maybe do an Ultra 4, like a short course, for guys that are a little more into the excitement, because some guys, get bored with just the scale trucks because there isn't as much excitement as actual racing or jumps, but like I said, there's always a handful of people at the compound. So there's always a show to be seen, everyone's destroying something or, it's cool. You figure out real quick who, might per se have a little extra money, or if they really just don't care and they like to break stuff. It's great. It's great because we see a little bit of everything and it's awesome.
Crawling is more technique and skill. And it's fun to have something, say like, like a bomber where you can just let her rip, and just have a
exactly.
bit of fun too,
and just, yeah, where it's all in the mood, you know, if you're trying, you know, at night, you know, guys all do the night crawling, like I said, where we'll do like the King of the Hammers, they do the backdoor challenge out there in Johnson Valley, California, where we'll do like our own little like backdoor challenge, like a timed little, maybe just a 20-foot section of a trail, and just see who can do it the quickest and the rowdiest, you know, and that just adds that excitement. It gets good video, and yeah, it just keeps people entertained in a sense. I mean, it is great. You know, some people they'll get a little alcohol in them, and you know, this and that, and it's just fun to see people unwind a little bit, and as well as, you know, their rigs start to unwind, because you know, people are getting a little more you know, aggressive with the driving, you know, once you know, the night starts to roll in, I guess would be a good way of putting it. Just like, you know, like we said, the one-to-one real life, you always have those the wild group of people that, you know, are trying to do what someone can't do.
Right. So where do you get your ideas from? Do you have people or places that help influence you in your design?
Yeah, so I'll float around on different you know, RC forums, or you know, RC groups on Facebook. As you know, that stuff is taking off like wildfire. As well as, you know, we have a couple local full-size off-road parks, so I can get, you know, ideas when I'm there. Or, you know, we have a local ANS hobby, is ANS Crawl Zone, is an indoor RC facility around here in Bloomsburg, where it's cool to see, like, you know, go there and maybe get an idea, like, oh, that's a cool feature, you know, we don't have that at the compound. And you don't just copy it, it's just you're taking their idea and then making it your own, is a good way of putting it.
Yeah,
that way there's no, and it's just any ideas of a new feature, or if someone says, hey, you know, I recommend you should do this, I'm always open for any type of recommendation or suggestion for the compound. I'm always listening.
Yeah, now you have your audience and you got these guys coming to your compound. Do you find that they have a favorite run or a feature you see?
Yes, we have a new scale trail. It's like a scale Appalachian mountain, just a mountain ridge, or a mountain range. Because we had our creek, an excavator dug it out like 2 years ago and just dropped the mud and dirt where it dropped, and it's been sitting there for 2 years, and it's maybe 3-4 feet tall of just a mountain range. And then that would be the realest trail we have at the compound, as far as like scale, and all natural, where there's very little man-made adjustments to the trail, and that seems to be a hot item. People love that. And then the barn trail, like I said, is a main one that people love to conquer, just for the certification sticker. That gets people going, and they're all fun. They're all fun. We're trying to make the ultimate like crawler challenge, where you can link all the trails together, and if you finish it, then that's great. If not, then maybe next time.
That's a good idea. I mean, that sort of opens up people to try. Even if you go on the rock bouncer course, you don't have to hit it with speed. You can crawl it, presumably, you know. So
yeah, and we just had one of the hills was actually never conquered until I think 2 nights ago. 2 of my buddies were there with their very capable 1.9 trucks, and they actually managed to crawl up the Bounty Hill that wasn't conquered yet, which is exactly what you're saying. You don't need all that throttle and you know, momentum to get up. If you just let the truck, you know, do its thing and hook up, that's, you know, those trucks, they work. As long as they're set up right, you don't need to be going 100 miles an hour in order to get up a feature.
Right. Yeah, it's not all about
you know,
gas, is it?
No, exactly. And that's just all driving style in general. You know, if you've ever been wheeling in real life, you know, which, you know, I have a full-size Jeep, so with doing that, it helps you relate to the RC world. Even if you've never been in a full-size rig, it goes both ways. If you run an RC car, you will learn quickly. You know, you might need a little momentum to make it through a spot, or you might want to slow down. And same thing as a full-size rig. You know, there's spots out in the trail where you need to bump a feature and carry that momentum, or if you bump it too hard, you may roll over, you know. So there's not, because that's where like those rock bouncers are awesome and stuff, but I feel at times they just have a little too much power, and it's like a bouncy ball on a hill. You know, you don't know where it's going to go next.
Right. Yeah, I mean, all that energy and inertia is going to go somewhere, isn't it? I mean, if you hit something with speed,
exactly, there's going to be an effect. Yep.
Right. Exactly.
So definitely,
it sounds like, I mean, you're sort of firing on all cylinders with regards to ideas and, you know, addressing issues and encouraging people to come to the park. So do you have a long-term vision for your park?
Yeah, basically just keep it going. I'd like to make it even a little more public, where even if I'm not around, if people just want to, you know, stop by and, you know, crawl day, you know, I thought about putting like a little drop box where like I said, this isn't about money. It's not like I'm trying to get retirement fund here. It's just, if people want to donate a little, for the time and this and that, that's great. If someone comes and crawls and they don't, then hey, like I said, I'm not going to be breathing down their neck telling them, chasing them off the property, so that's that.
Yeah. Do you think you will sort of entertain like sort of doing soccer events or something like that, or?
Possibly. I have a couple local guys that are more into just the comps, where I've already been approached and they've asked if they could do a comp at my property. And I'm definitely open-minded to that. As the compound keeps growing, I'd love to see more comp guys come and check it out. And, because the terrain's there, the gates just have to be set. Yeah. And with that, the sky's the limit, as far as what class you're running, or, there's all kinds of class 1 stuff for those super realistic guys. And like I said, we have man-made features that are, for the class 3 guys that are trying to get rowdy.
Yeah. You can offer, quite some bandwidth there as trail choice. I mean, if you pick and chose.
Yeah. Where if I would ever do another comp, I think I would make each trail maybe, 1.9 tire specific or a 2.2 tire specific, just to keep things rolling a little smoother and just, not beat the snot out of the trails as much. But like I said, they're there to get hammered, and that's the way it is. So I don't care if people tear them up. It just adds to the realistic of, trails are getting worn in.
Just a natural occurrence.
Yeah. Yep. Because after an event, it looks like a nuclear bomb went off at times, because the trails just get so hammered, and, some gate markers might get stepped on and this and that, where it's just all part of the game. We have tiki torches at night for the bugs, and, to give out some lighting. New this year, we have, some LED Christmas lights out to help light up certain features on the trails, and as well as total blackout section. So the guys that do want to run full lights and do the realistic gig, there's no other lights to interfere. People usually have headlamps if they do need light to make a repair on the trail, or if not, they just go up to their camp.
Wow. You really do accommodate just about every possible need there.
Yeah, and night crawling's great because it cools down at night, so really people can stay out as long as they want, and it's just, you're not fighting the heat as much during the summertime.
Right.
Because I've noticed now that summer is here, more guys will come later in the afternoon on the weekends and then crawl into the night and leave maybe 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And like I said, I'm totally fine with that. I don't, I have animals there. We just ask that people don't, shoot firearms or fireworks, are the main thing, just to spook the animals, and I don't want to piss the neighbors off.
Always a good consideration, especially as it's, you're living there.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm trying to, one hand washes the other. I'm not trying to, aggravate people, or, even with that said, I don't want my wife to get angry and then put the kapoots to everything.
No.
It's as simple as that. I mean, you know how things go.
Oh, absolutely. That's a very real issue.
Yeah.
Well, they say happy wife, happy life, right?
Yep, you got it. So that's the main thing.
So how can people find out more about the crawler compound?
So yeah, they have, if you search Graham Crawler Compound under the group section on Facebook, that should take you to our group, and just request to follow. There's a couple basic rules on our group, and an admin or one of my other moderators will vote you into the group, and that's great, because we're always trying to meet new people. That's what it's about, and getting new people into the sport, whether it's children or adults. We let anyone come. I mean, I think the littlest guy we had was 4 years old. They came up all the way from Philadelphia area, and they camped out, with his dad, and it's just cool because you get that bonding experience.
Oh wow!
And you're making memories, that'll last a lifetime.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So basically, the Facebook is the best way to find you.
Yeah, Facebook would be our most active. I think we're up to like 330 members, and we keep it very specific to the compound. So, a couple of the, some of these groups have, 10,000 members, this and that, where, like I said, ours, we just keep it all concentrated just to compound content. We don't say if you're building a truck Nigel for the mud bog, you're welcome to share, hey, I'm building this, for the compound, I can't wait to try it, like that's great. But if people are just, putting random stuff on my page and this and that, I will tend to delete it, because it's not about the compound, if that that makes sense.
Absolutely. No, you're keeping it more specific. So.
Yeah, and we do have Instagram as well, but that's around, but that's not like Facebook. I mean, Facebook seems to be, people are always posting videos, and it makes it easy because everybody can stay in touch and basically use the same news feed as far as that goes. If there's any updates with the compound, or if for some reason I wouldn't want people to be there, if I was having, a family event, all that can be found on the compound page, and it's always updated almost, not every day, but most likely like a couple times a week there's always updates on the page.
So it's all good. It's always good to check Facebook before coming down.
Where all I ask if someone is a first timer or this or that, I just have them either send me a private message, and then I can accommodate to them. I usually get back to them as quickly as I can, and like I said, I'm pretty flexible as far as whether it's through the week or the weekend. I try to make it work.
Right. I must admit, I'm very impressed. You seem to have covered so many bases, and you seem to be very accommodating to the RC community with what we're
and it's because I know you came down to check the property out, and it was cool that you got eyes on the course and the property in general, because you saw lots of room for camping. Like I said, we do accommodate some campers. I just asked those people to get a hold of me beforehand so I can sort of mark off certain spots for the campers. Therefore, the more level the better, yada yada. Even with parking, it tends to get pretty busy. I asked if people just give me a heads up, say, hey, we are coming or we're not. I mean, other than that, it's pretty much pick a spot in my yard and make it home for the weekend.
Wow, that is very, very generous of you.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, because and for me, I grew up in northeastern Pennsylvania, so it's, I love it where, some of those city folks, they come up and they can't believe, they're so thankful that I do share my property, and, they love how it's in the middle of nowhere. We have Amish buggies go by. It's just, it's a beautiful place where we live, located there in Jerseytown, Pennsylvania, and it's just, a small little community, and it's just great.
Yeah. So if anyone that's thinking of building their own backyard course, can you offer any advice to them?
My basic advice would be get your general layout, maybe sketch it on a piece of paper, or take marker paint out and do that, and then basically just get that initial course burned into your yard or the piece of paper you have, and then basically just start at the beginning and just start going with it. Think ahead a little bit due to people standing around and tripping over things, where that's what I've learned. I'd say with having more people come and more people is you want to have room for people to get around, is what I'm getting at. And a lot of our trails are actually handicap accessible in a sense, because it's all in my yard. So with that being said, if you are expecting people to come with a disability of some sort, try to keep your walkways relatively smooth and wide enough for that accommodation. But yeah, I mean, don't overthink it. You can, like I said, you can stand there if you have a rock in your hands for more than 5 minutes, it's like you're doing something wrong, because like, just put it down and on to the next. I'll go fill my pickup truck full of rocks and I'll back it right to where I'm doing my thing, and if it's not unloaded within an hour, then like I said, something's wrong, because you're thinking about it way too much.
I think you can get caught up in like, it has to sort of look a certain way. But I think if you spend that time, that's when you get that deer in the headlights thing. Is if you throw some pallets down and put some stuff on it and just try it, you go, cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
maybe I'm on the right course, or maybe I want to make it more robust for a long-term feature. But right now, I've got a feel for how it goes. And I thought, the idea of what you said about laying out an idea of how the course is going to go, it's another really good introspective view of things. I mean,
that's usually, take a photo of your yard, and then when you're sitting inside at night, you can, maybe clown around with the paint, or visualize it on your phone, and maybe play around with different ideas, because I've already been thinking I'm doing a trail one way, where I'm like, oh well, hey, maybe we can make a bridge here and it can go underneath the trail and have a crossover, or an overpass, or and old tires, I mean, the list goes on of things you can use for scale trails. I mean, it's a mile long of materials.
And I like the concrete cores.
Yep, the bridge core. Yeah, we have a connection with that, and people hate them because they're so slippery.
Yeah,
and they are awesome because they are a challenge.
Slippery. Yeah.
And another thing to recommend for like trail builders that are just getting into it is think into the longevity of the feature. You don't want to build something that, two guys go over it and the thing's destroyed. You want that feature to last. That's another huge thing with having 100+ people come through a weekend. You don't want to go out every day and start repairing the course. You want, in a sense, to be set in stone,
Yeah. No.
We'll use Quickcrete, on some spots that really get, churned up or dug up, just so that it's preventative maintenance is what it comes down to.
Yeah. No, and also I liked your idea of like the Quickcrete and using the buckets and everything, because that way you can build, if you want to do it sort of with a pile of rocks, that's a lot of rocks.
Exactly.
To get up something 3-4 feet high. Don't overthink it. Just make something simple that will work.
Pallets are a number one go-to because you can get them for free 90% of the time. And like you said, if you want to start raising elevation or grade changes on a specific trail, if you bring in loads of topsoil, that's a lot of work. Where you can do that with pallets. Immediately, with a screw gun and a little bit of pallets. So therefore you don't have a 4 foot tall rock feature. You can use those rocks elsewhere.
Right. I can get caught up in the aesthetics of everything, but I mean, I think that ultimately it's more, at the end of the day, it's more about the driving experience.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that would be my best advice for building a new trail, would be just think ahead a little bit, take your time, and it can't be wrong, because like you said, there's no off-road trail in the world that is wrong. You never hear someone say, well, that's not right. You adapt and overcome the trail is what you do in real life. So that's what you would do in the RC world.
Right.
Because you can start getting so sidetracked with trails. That's my issue, is I'll be working on this thing and then I'll be like, oh, I might as well start that. And, you can have multiple features going at once, to where it's good to just stay focused and get one trail done and then start the next one. And then you can always go back and maybe tweak something or finalize something or change something up. There's always that option to go back and make adjustments.
Right. I can hear experience talking there.
Yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, and like I said, our event is from the 4th to the 6th, so you're welcome to show up anytime from that time, and even Sunday. It usually goes into the dark on Sunday as well, because everyone's schedules are different. So a lot of guys ask, hey, is there anything going on Sunday? And I always say, yes, definitely. It's still worth, the trip up, whether you're just coming for the day or the whole weekend. As far as that goes, it's a fun place. Everybody has fun there. And like I said, there is a variety for any type of rig. Some guys, they don't want water. They don't want anything to do with it. And that's fine. Even when we do a comp, we don't make it where it has to be waterproof. We'll make that a bonus line, because we don't want people to have to change a whole rig just to be able to come to my house. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, I think you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much.
I really appreciate your time, Garrett, and
I appreciate it as well, Nigel. Stoked that you reached out and we got to talk RC.
I will definitely be down again. You can rest assured on that one. So we'll
alrighty, sounds great. And like I said, if people have any questions, they could feel free to always shoot me a message. Appreciate you reaching out to the Graham Compound and giving us the opportunity. My first ever podcast, so I can cross that off the to-do list. The bucket list.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview. I did get the chance to join Garrett at the compound, and true to what he said, someone stepped forward and lent me their truck. So I did get to drive the course, and it was great fun. True to form, the concrete bridge courses are really tough to drive. The driving was challenging with some really cool features to play on. I will most definitely go back with my own trucks and drive the course again. Garrett has really put some time into building his RC compound, and clearly he has not finished building and improving the courses. So with the promise of a new Ultra 4 course, maybe I need to think about getting a bomber. Thank you so much for listening. Please feel free to reach out to me with your thoughts and comments. You can find us at RC Truck Talk on Facebook, Instagram, and Gmail. And I will do my best to reply to all comments. If you enjoyed this episode, then please recommend us to a friend, and if possible, leave a review. Credits: music by Croanda, audio production by Lee Street Productions. And again, thank you all for listening, and I hope you make some time to get a little dirt on those tires.